Alright, welcome back. Oh man, it's been a week. But you know what? I got to meet a hero of mine. And you know how they say, like, you should never meet your heroes, because it always feels like they'll let you down. You know, they won't be who you thought they would. I kind of feel like that's true in some cases. I'll give you examples. So I've met 3 people before. John Romita Jr., Todd McFarlane, and James O'Barr. Now, if you're a comic book, nerd like me, then you know who these people are, right? So anyways, I got cool stories to tell, and I'm gonna tell them right now, but I guess I'm gonna tell them in the order that I met these people. By the way, I'm listening to what is it? Ambient and relaxing Silent Hill music. Hopefully it's not too loud. So Todd McFarlane was signing down here in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I live. And he was signing because of the Spawn 300 issue. And I have that certificate, the one that's like, you're at the 300 signing and you got Todd's autograph on the card, as well as, like, he would sign one thing that you brought with you. And I had Spawn 1, 298, 299, 300, 301. And then my friend was like, here, take my 2 Spawn comics, see if you can get them signed for me, because he had to work. He's a co-worker. So anyway, they told us that, like, oh, it's just one. He'll just sign one thing, which was understandable, because even when I got there, it seemed like there's maybe 200 people in front of me, but it probably took like 5 hours in the deathly fucking sun of Arizona to even get to Todd. So for 5 hours I was standing in line just to get the certificate and the one signing, and boy was I dying, because not only was I hungover from drinking the night before, but I told my boss I'd come into work like at noon. I was supposed to be there at 5 in the morning or something. Well, I didn't get there at noon. I probably got there at like 6 p.m. She was so pissed, like screaming at me, pissed. I should just quit. I shouldn't even went in. But I loved her too much. She was a cool boss. Anyway, that's off topic. So in 5 hours, I'm standing in line, and it's brutal. And at one point, Wanda McFarlane, Todd's wife, comes out, and I'm not sure where she's going. Maybe she's going to their car or something, but she walks by the line, and I'm like, oh, hey, Wanda. And she's like, hey, how's it going? And I didn't like expect a question from her. Like, I thought she was just gonna say, oh, hi, good to see you, or something. But she's like, hey, how's it going? So I just kind of froze up, and I kind of just was like, and just nodded. I'm not good with meeting, quote unquote famous people or their wives, apparently. Excuse me. So that was awkward, and that set a weird precedent for the rest of the day. Like, I was in line, and as we got close to it was in a theater where this was set. It was like a movie theater. And Todd had brought all the original Spider-Man #1 art that he did in the 90s. So it was on the walls and frames. I'm sure he just took them down from his walls at home. And that art, I was standing in front of art that's probably worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. If not million, maybe. I don't know about that much, but they had a Violator, like, giant Violator plastic thing there, a Spawn thing there, and then like a Clown Violator thing there. Like these huge plastic molds, and they look pretty rad. There's probably pictures of it online somewhere. But as I got near to Todd, I was next in line. This Mexican lady, clearly didn't speak English, and they were trying to move, I think their kid or somebody out of the way, like they were handicapped in a wheelchair. And they'd been ahead of us in line, so they were still there, like trying to move them when I finally got in there. And I had went there specifically to ask Todd nothing about fucking Spawn or Spawn 300 or to congratulate him. None of that shit. I was there for business. Because in my mind, Todd's the president of Image. So it's like, if I want my comic book to be published by Image, which one of them I'm working on so many, but one of them, it's like, why not ask the president? So I'm like staring at Todd. Todd's staring at, not signing at all for anyone, like, because I'm next in line basically, and he's staring at this Mexican lady trying to move this wheelchair, and he's like trying to like talk to her, but she clearly doesn't speak English. So it's just this weird setup in front of me that's going on, and I'm like, and I like take a step forward because I want to like just get in there, ask the question, get my book signed, and fucking go to work. It's the mission. So she finally moves, and I see, and you had to hand your like comic book to someone off, one of Todd's handlers, whatever, people off to the side. So he already had my comic book, handed it to Todd. Todd signed it and slid it down the table to Jason Sean Alexander, I think that's his full name, and Tom Orzakowski, the letterer for Uncanny X-Men and the letterer for all of Spawn issues. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Sorry if I got it wrong. Anyway, so I get up there. Todd is now handed somebody else's Spawn comic, and he's like, what do we got here? And I'm like, oh, you actually already signed mine, it's over there. And he's like, oh, well, he's like, oh, like, Todd, yeah, bud, you know how Todd talks. I can't do it. Rob Liefeld could do it. But, so I'm like, Todd, and I'm like kind of bending over like an idiot with like my hands between my thighs, like I'm trying to find a comfortable position to crouch down to like get eye to eye with him. And I should have just taken a knee, but I was so fucking dead tired. I hadn't ate or drank anything, and again I was hungover. I'd been outside in the heat for 5 hours dying. So I like kind of take this weird position, and Todd visibly notices it. He like looks at my demeanor, and he's like, what's this guy doing? And I'm like, fuck, like cursing in my head, like, god damn it, just like take a knee, and like if he takes a second to get up, I'm sure I'll understand. People had been passing out outside, and one guy actually passed out and went to the hospital. That's how fucking hot it was. And Todd signed their book saying, don't die, Todd McFarlane. It's hilarious. But, so I take that weird stance, and I'm like, Todd, I just have to ask you one question, and then I'll get out of your way. And he's like, sure. And he like leans forward, and I was like, so I have a comic I want to submit to Image, but I don't know, like, and I'm like fumbling my words. I forget exactly what I said, but like it came out wrong. And he's like looking like at the line and not at me, but like he's listening. He's actively like putting his ear towards me, listening. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what I meant to say was I have an Image comic book submission, and I'm going to send it in. I'm like trying to like collectively think of what I'm going to say this time. Like I'm taking it one piece at a time. I have an Image comic book submission. I'm going to send it in, and I wanted to know if you could give me any advice for my submission. Anything that will get me a leg up in my submission. And he leans back, and he glares at me like instantly he went from, hey bud, to like scowling almost at me. Like he's scowling. And I'm like, and I like was immediately like taken aback. I felt instantly uncomfortable. I'm like, why is he like look like he wants to rip my face off? And he's like, and this is the advice he gave me, which I'm going to share with everyone. He said, send us the art and separately from the writing, and then send them both together. He's like, so if we like the art, we could take the art and use it. If we like the writing, we could take the writing and use it. And then he instantly quit looking at me, which thankfully, because he looked fucking angry as shit. I don't know. Again, I don't know why. Maybe it's because I brought up business in like his time of celebration. I don't know. But to me, it's always business time. So then he immediately like completely forgets about me, turns to his person. They hand him the next comic. He signs it. And as soon as he turned to like get the next comic book, I just said, oh, thank you, Todd. I was like, thank you, Todd. I really appreciate the advice. And he's like, yep. And then I just kept walking down the line. So that whole experience was just weird and uncomfortable. And I was hungover and disheveled and sweaty, and I don't think I smelled, but like it was an awful day. Something that should have been fun just turned into like not fun. And so anyways, I went over to Tom and Jason, who were on the table over, because you got to talk to them after you got to talk to Todd. And I said, oh, you guys signed my comic book, because it was just sitting there waiting. And I said, thank you guys for everything you do in the comic book industry. And I shook both their hands and I left. Like I was so fucking frazzled by what happened with Todd that talking to them just seemed like I couldn't even fathom fucking sitting there and having a conversation. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I gotta go to work. I'm already late. So anyways, before I called my ride, I went to go look at all the original Spider-Man art from Spider-Man #1 on the wall. And it looked great. I mean, I've never seen cleaner art. Beautiful line work. The inking was perfect. I mean, Todd is an absolute master at his craft. So that was meeting Todd McFarlane. And like, I won't get into like a whole story about what happened at work, but basically my ride decided to go all the way home instead of waiting for me like they said they would. They were going to go shopping or whatever the fuck. So they had to drive all the way back. So it took them like, because it was out in the middle of nowhere, it took them like 2 hours to get there through traffic, 2.5, and then to get to work. So I was super late, and eventually my boss forgave me, but like it was a horrible day, and the experience of meeting Todd McFarlane was not the one I wanted. But I guess they can't all be perfect, right? So anyway, cut to, let's see, so that, I don't know when Spawn 300 came out. It had to have been like, it was before the pandemic. Let's look it up real quick. Spawn 300 issue date 9/19. Okay, so September of 2019, 4 years ago exactly, almost. Crazy. So then cut to 2022. We just came out of the pandemic, and I go to Comic-Con. And at Comic-Con, like, some people are wearing masks, some people aren't wearing masks. I wore my mask just because I was like, I don't want to go to Comic-Con and then be stuck in a bed for a week after. I don't really care if I have to wear a mask or not. And I didn't have to, but I did because I just didn't want to get sick. I haven't had COVID, I don't want it. But either way, I went there for one person again. If I'm ever going to a convention, it's usually for like one or two people. I'm not there to shop. I'm not there to fucking, I mean, all the glitz of like a convention are awesome. You know, the cosplays, the fandom. I mean, I love all of it. I think it's great. But that's not why I go. I go to meet people that I admire and respect, and to just kind of, if I get to know them for a moment, that's fine. You know, I just want to meet them, shake their hand, tell them how much I love them, get my autographs, get the fuck out of there, whatever, you know. Back in the day, it'd be go drink a beer. Now it's go eat a fucking pesto pizza. But, so I go to the Comic-Con, excuse me, and the pandemic, we just came out of it, so I didn't know what the, you know, being respectfully towards John Romita Jr., which is why I went there, I didn't know what the protocol was, you know. Do you shake his hand? Do you get close to them? Like, what's the protocol? I don't know. And I'm just bad being around famous people anyways, because I don't know. I feel an overwhelming sense of pressure to make the experience perfect and just be genuine and regular. So, and I know this is part of my problem is thinking about this too much, but so I go up to his table, and I have my Punisher #1 Warzone that he did. Actually, I forgot mine. I had to buy one at the con to get it signed. But then I realized, and I forgot, that, you know, at their tables, they have, like, posters there that you can just get them to sign the poster. It's like, oh, yeah. So I go up to his table, and I'm looking at all the posters, and I'm kind of looking over at John Romita Jr. as well, JR. So I'm like doing a little both, like deciding and looking at him, and he's drawing, like he's doing a commission or something. I think he's drawing Superman. And the handler was this little Asian lady. She was cute. She's like, "Hey, are you here to see John?" And I'm like, "Oh, hi. Yeah. How much is it to like get something signed?" And she's like, "Oh, it's $40. Did you want to get one of these posters?" And I like look around, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess I'll get that like Punisher one signed, you know." And I forget, it's an opening page of, I don't know what issue. Maybe it is the Warzone issue, but it's yellow and black. Maybe I'll put it here in the video, but it's an opening page. And she's like, "Okay, cool, like go pay that guy." And there's like an old guy sitting next to John, like, and I hand him my card. This guy too, remember this guy. So I hand him my card, and he's charging it, and then I'm just like now like standing in front of JR, and he's drawing, and then he like stops and he looks at me, and he's like, "Oh, hey, sorry pal." And then like he gets up, and I was like, "Oh, you know, I didn't want to like I forgot what I said. I didn't want to like interrupt. Oh, I didn't want to interrupt a master at work." And he's like, "Oh, it's fine, you know." And he stands in front of me for like 1 second. This second felt like an eternity, because he's looking at like my body, and my hand's not out to shake, to like say, "Hey, nice to meet you." And so he like, that 1 second he like looks up and down. I don't have my hand out, and then he like puts his hand out really firmly, like really stiff. And he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." And like I shake his hand, fucking super awkward. And he's like, "Oh, the Punisher on." He like starts signing it, and I'm like, "Yeah, you know, when I was growing up, your Punisher was one of my favorite Punishers. I mean, it was literally my Punisher, and I love your artwork and everything that you do." And I said all that, and he like, the more I keep talking and giving him compliments, the more he seems like he doesn't want to talk to me. I'm just like, at that point, I'm like, whoa, like, what did I do? Like, what did I do? Like, I'm just complimenting you and telling you how much you meant to me, you know? So, like, it goes in stages. It's like, "Oh, I loved your Punisher growing up. It was one of my favorite Punishers. Okay, he's still smiling. And your art, I was like, you know, your art is so beautiful. And then, like, his smile goes away. And then it's like, and, you know, like, everything you do, it means so much to me. It's so great. I love your comic book art. His smile is completely gone. Now he's, like, almost frowning. He doesn't even want to talk to me. I'm like those 3 stages of, like, the compliments. And I'm like, what, like, why does this happen every time with me? Like, I'm almost beginning to fade because of it. I'm like, fuck, I'm about to die inside. And he hands me it back, and it just says JR. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 lines to make the J and then the R, right? And I'm so nervous at that point. I'm out. I'm like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I have his autograph. But inside my mind, I'm like, I need 4 more lines, though. Ask him for 4 more lines. Ask the great John Romita Jr. for 4 more lines. And people are probably like, what do you mean 4 more lines? What the fuck does that mean? Like, comic book fans know what I mean. He used to sign his name JR, and he would put it in a box. Just like Todd McFarlane, he'd put it in a box. So I wanted to tell him, like, JR, please can you put it in a box like you used to, like when I grew up. But after that, like after what just happened, I am so fucking, again, frazzled. Like, just dripping with anxiety and riddled with contempt that I even tried to make our experience together fucking fun, you know? Or whatever it was meant to be. And that's what I guess that's what it turned into. But, like, I was so just like, I hated it. And the whole day it bothered me because we were at the con with I was with my friend Louie and my sister Ari. And I was just the whole day I was trying to have a good time with them because we kept walking around. And they're like, hey, you got to see the guy you wanted to see, right? Yeah, you know? And I'm like, no, yeah. There's no yeah. Yeah, no is really what it is. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. And, so that's my meeting with Todd McFarlane and John Romita Jr., right? And already, this has set me up for failure every time because I'm like, all right, I'm like I'm 2-0, you know, or whatever the losing streak is. So when I'm like, Tucson Comic-Con's coming up, you know, 2023 September, this month. I just went to it this weekend, yesterday. And that's why I'm recording this, because I want it to be fresh in my mind for the experience. So I'm losing these fucking meeting my heroes. Like, it is not the experiences I'm getting out of this, and I don't know why. I'm just acting normal. So, this story is just crazy, like, tricky. Let me actually pause this real quick and get some water for this. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. Alright, so look. I'm not trying to talk shit about any of these people. I guess I should have prefaced it with that. I'm not saying anything bad about any of these people. I'm just saying in my experiences, it didn't go the way I planned it to go. Okay? So now, yesterday, I drive from Phoenix to Tucson. It's like a 2-hour drive if you include getting out of the city, but it's actually an hour and a half outside the city to the other city. So I drive 2 hours to Tucson. And I lived there for a year and I really loved it. So I'm kind of familiar with the city. Anyway, I go to the Spirit Halloween store, and it's located next to like this Bookman's and this Zia Records. They're really cool used bookstores here. So I go to Spirit Halloween and I get like a rocker wig And I got like a long sleeve black shirt, biker gloves, black pants, and boots. I'm literally gonna dress up as the Crow. My cosplay. And I got some black eyeliner and some black lipstick. And I was gonna do the comic accurate version where his face isn't painted white. That's the movie. Like in the comic, he just has the black. So I do that, and I go and eat In-N-Out Burger because I'm hungry. I didn't have breakfast, I just had coffee. And I get to the con. Every single fucking parking is full. The whole thing full. For streets, it's full. And so I'm driving around, and then finally I spot this parking garage, and it looks full. Like, I'm looking up all the way to the top floor, and it looks full. So anyways, I go inside because it gives me a ticket. I'm like, well, if it's giving me and everyone in front of me and back of me a ticket, then it can't be full. Otherwise, it wouldn't. So I go inside, and I go all the way to the top. And I'm looking around, and I see all the downtown Tucson buildings around me. People are outside on them, looking around and shit. So I'm all the way at the top. And I'm like, wow, like, this is kind of crazy. So anyway, I get my get-up on, I get my gear on. I don't put the makeup on just yet. I just have the stupid rocker wig on. And the outfit. And so I go down to the con. It's about 3 blocks. And some stairs, and like I have to go all the way from one side of the building to the other side. And it's blazing hot out, of course, especially in the wig. And so I get up to the security check, and the guy's like, oh, your bag. And I just had this little like side bag, like, that I strap over my shoulder, you know. And he's like, it's too big. And also, it's not clear. We only allow clear ones that are like a little smaller than that. And I'm like, you fucking serious? Like, what? No, what Comic-Con does this? Like, I've never, Phoenix doesn't do that. So I walk all the way back 3 blocks, put my stupid bag in there, chug a bunch of water, take all my makeup, a thing of deodorant, and shove it into my pockets, because I'm like, I'm not going to be the smelly guy at the con, especially if I'm going to go see James O'Barr. I don't want to be the smelly fan. And I put a bunch of like cologne on too. So anyway, walk all the way back, and I go up to the guy, and I'm like, is this okay? Because I actually have my Crow original The Crow issue number 2 as well. I want to get it signed by him. And the guy's like, yeah, you good, man, you all good, So I go inside and get in line, buy a ticket, and immediately just book it for where James O'Barr is. I'm like, I'm gonna go straight to him, get the sign, maybe walk around real quick, explore a little bit, and then I'm out of here. I'm going all the way back to Phoenix. Literally, the only reason I came there was to meet him, shake his hand, tell him how much I loved him, get my Crow number 2 sign, and I'm out. And so I get over there, he's talking to somebody, and I'm looking at his little like sheet. He was actually also sharing a booth with somebody, so it was like another artist. It was a lady. I don't remember her name. She was wearing a Crow shirt too, which I thought was kind of cool. She was like supporting the booth. But so I get to his sheet, and I'm looking at it, and it says, comic books signings free. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like, that's awesome. Like, he supports comic books so much that he's willing to sign his comic books for free. Love it. And that went for graphic novels too. And then he had like John Romita Jr. did, he had like the posters there of like Crow art that he did, and some of them were so badass. And for those, it was $20, and then there was like another smattering of like prices for everything else. But the thing that caught my eye was the commissions, and it said $100 to $250. And it just so happens that I just got paid, so I was like, man, maybe I did come here for more than just a signature. I was like, I'm going to get a commission too. I'm going to pay for some original James O'Barr art of the Crow. And so I get over to him and I immediately shake his hand. I'm like, nice to meet you, Mr. O'Barr. Big fan. I love your work. And he's all smiles, you know. Kind of smiling, kind of not. But he's like, thank you. And I was like, I just brought my Crow issue number 2 here for you to get it signed by you. And he starts signing it. And he signed it in a place that I actually really liked. He signed it right at the top with a gold marker. And I thought that was nice. I was like, wow, that's a good signature place. And I like what he's using. Cool. You know, it wasn't like right in the middle, just blah, you know. So, oh man. And this is where you know, goes off crash course. There's something I noticed about him during my interaction with him, because I got it signed and I was like, oh, thank you so much, you know, blah blah blah. And then someone immediately like jumped into it and like tried to get something signed. I'm like, wow, okay. And I like had to like pull my comic book away out of front of them and was like, oh, whatever. And as I'm like trying to put my Crow 2 back into a case, because I have a really nice slip case for it, without damaging it, there's a guy behind James O'Barr, and he's just this really regular dude in a blue shirt that says The Crow on it, and he's waving to me. He's like, come over here, and I'm like, behind the table, like I'm motioning like cross over, like back where you guys are. And he's like, yeah, come here. And I'm like, oh God, this is so weird. And so I go behind the table, and now I'm in James O'Barr's personal space. And he opens up this book, and inside the book were original Crow arts, like paintings, sketches, like fully drawn stuff. And it has the dates on it, so it's like 91, 92, you know, and like almost every year's in there. And I'm just looking at them, and I keep, like, everyone I see, I'm like, wow, whoa, you know, like, God, that's amazing. Like, oh my God, this one's the best one so far, you know. And James is done interacting with that like rude fan who like kind of scooted me out of the way. And he turns around, and now he's kind of just like chilling with us. And I'm like bent over, like just in awe by this art, you know, wearing this stupid, remember, I'm wearing this stupid fucking rocker wig because I'm trying to look like the 90s or the 80s original Caliber Comics The Crow. For the comics. The one we're actually all looking at. And James is like, he comments, he's like, yeah, it's like you're almost trying to get a piece of art from me from every year. And the guy's like, well, yeah, I would if I could, James, you know. And he actually had an English accent, so he's like, I would if I could, James, you know. And I don't know if that's an English accent, but like that's the way he talked. But so I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. And I like kind of like turned a little bit towards James O'Barr. And I'm like, James, your work is just like, it's like so good. You're like a master, man. Which is true. He's like really good. He's one of my favorites. And so, like, I stepped back outside the table because I was like, I'm not just going to linger back here. That would be weird. And I asked James, I was like, oh, I noticed you have commissions too. And I was wondering, are they still open? Can I get a commission for you? And he thought about it for like 2 seconds. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I could do one more. And I was like, oh shit, I got the last slot. All right. So I asked him, I'm like, 100, 250, what's the, you know, is it like headshots? And he's like, yeah. He's like, so $100 headshot, you know, and then like somewhere in between going to 250, you know, if he had shoulders and blah, blah, blah. So he explained it to me. And I was like, all right, well, $100. I see your PayPal's on there because it was listed. And it had his real name on it, I think. Because I don't think O'Barr, or it had a different name. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. But I sent it to him, and then I sent him another $20, and in the note I said tip for commission, so $120. And I was like, can you please make sure you got it, because my phone's acting like weird signal wise in here. So he like goes, like, rummages for his phone in this box, and he pulls it out, and he's like scrolling through. He's like, yeah, I got it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, thank you guys, and I'm gonna explore the con, and I'll come back. And ultimately, the truth is like, I'd have never commissioned an artist before at a con like that, so I didn't know if, like, oh, he's gonna work on it then and there, or he's gonna work on it later. And I had even asked him, I'm like, is it alright if I record you when you draw it, because I want to just record it as an experience, part of the, to watch you make it come to life. And he's like, well, I got a lot of them to do. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry, no worries. And so I walked off. And then at that point, this is where it just gets crazy. At that point, I was like, well, I'll go put on my crow makeup, just the liner. So I go to the bathroom, and I start doing it in the mirror. And there's this guy in there, like 4, faucets down. And he's staring at me and glaring at me while I'm doing this. He's like scowling almost. And I'm almost done, and I'm like freaking out, not like hardcore or anything, but I'm just like, man, I'm so tired of this fucker staring at me. Like, go enjoy the con. Why are you in here looking at me so hard? And I walk off. And I walk about 5 booths in from the bathroom and realize, oh shit, my Crow issue number 2 that James O'Barr signed, I left it in the bathroom on this faucet. Holy shit, no. The whole thing I came here for, it's gonna be gone. I bolt immediately across the con as fucking Eric Draven, with the makeup on me and everything. And I'm running to this bathroom, and I go in there and I look at the faucet, and it's gone. And my heart just drops. I'm just like staring at the faucet like, no, please, no. And I look around, and I'm trying to look like, is there anyone that's suspicious looking? Like they just saw me react, like maybe they took it, like check, look what everyone's holding, And there's this maintenance guy. He's cleaning the faucet next to mine. And I tell the maintenance guy, who does not speak English very well, I said, excuse me, sir, was there something right here on this faucet? Did you pick up anything or see anyone grab anything? I'm rambling. And he's like, oh yeah. And he's like, come with me, Orale. And I'm like, oh, okay, whoa, cool, yes, he has it. Long story short, I follow this dude halfway across the con. He's radioing people the whole time. They don't have it. We go in, like, upstairs. They tell me, oh, some girl in a purple shirt near all the highlighted, like, polo people has it. So I run over there. She doesn't have it. She's like, oh, I'll ask my other, like, supervisors. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'm gonna find this shit. And I run to another chick. And she's like, oh, well, we just had a child missing, so that's more important than your comic book. I'm sorry. And then so she takes off, and I'm like, fuck, So then I go downstairs, and there's this guy, and he's looking at me funny. He's a security guard. And I tell him about the situation. He's like, oh, yeah, we just got a radio on that. I know who has that. And I'm like, well, can you tell him to come over here? Because I went and talked to, like, everyone upstairs, and they all, like, told me they have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he gets on the radio, and he tells the lady to come over, and she comes over, and sure enough, she has my comic. Boom, I got it back. But I was laughing with him because I could tell the way he was looking at me that he thought I looked ridiculous. And I did look ridiculous, right? So anyway, I'm dragging this story on because there's so much story to tell. So, man, I got the comic back. I was so happy, and the girl's like, I told her, I was like, of course this is mine, and I held it up to my face. I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I see, you match. And so I go back to James O'Barr's table, and I'm just like standing awkwardly off to the side, and I kind of like, they're just commiserating between each other, and I asked both of them, I'm like, hey guys, I'm just gonna stand over here and hang out for a while, I hope you don't mind. And neither one of them said anything. They just kind of looked at me and were like, and then didn't say anything. Awkward. So I'm standing there for like 20 minutes, I want to say. And James O'Barr gets up, and he kind of, like, I could tell he's looking at me. And then, like, he tells his friend, he's like, hey, watch the table for a second. I gotta go to the bathroom or whatever. So he leaves. And then his friend, who was so friendly with me earlier with the artwork and everything, invited me behind the table, the English guy. I was like, hey, could I ask you a question real quick? And he's like, yeah, sure, mate, And I was like, I don't want to bug James O'Barr. I don't want to be like the fan that bugged James O'Barr, but like, when should I come back for my commission? Because I don't know how it works. And he's like, well, it's 3:30 right now. Let's say it's 3:30. It was like 3:23. Let's say about 2 hours from now, like around 5:30, you come back, and I'm sure it'll be done around then. Let's say like around then. What do you think? And I'm like, oh, so it will be? And he's like, well, to be honest with you, I'm just James's friend. I'm not really like a part of the event or anything. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, I guess I'll just go eat lunch or something. And he's like, all right, mate, see you later. And so, piss off. So I go and have diarrhea from In-N-Out in the toilet for about a half an hour. Then I go to the parking garage, pay $7 to leave, go down the street to Carl's Jr. and eat another hamburger after having just had diarrhea from eating fucking In-N-Out and shitting my brains out. Then I go back to the parking garage, park in my same spot all the way at the top, and the sun's starting to set. And it's, or it's getting closer, and it's 5:30, and I'm just hanging in there, and I watch like a video of the guy who survived from being killed by John Wayne Gacy. Like, he tried to like get him drunk in his hotel room or something. Go check it out, it's on YouTube. Totally riveting. But anyways, I'm watching that, and I'm counting down the hours. Why? Because I want to go get this, So here's what happened basically. Like, this whole thing is just so weird so far. Like, and James O'Barr himself, I gotta say this before I get to the last part. He's a person because I mean all this with respect. He's very hard to read emotionally. Like, it's really hard to read him. And to me, people that are always hard to read are people that are very aware of their feelings and how they present themselves. And I kind of feel like he's one of those people. And I know I think he's a military vet, and then of course, he lost someone really that he loved, hence the crow. So I took off all the makeup as well before I actually went to go see him with the makeup on, and I took off my wig, and I put a hat on. I actually bought a hat at the con to put on. And the reason being is because the more I thought about it, the more I realized, James created this story because of somebody he loved that was killed by a drunk driver. And now my asshole self is here cosplaying it like it's some fucking anime or something, you know? I was like, I don't feel like I'm respecting the guy by walking around him, you know, as the Crow. And so, like, he saw me with the wig on, but when I came back, I'd take all of it off except for I had a muscle tee on instead of the long sleeve black shirt that was ripped and had the bullet holes in it. And I took the wig off and I just came as myself. So that's when I come back at 5:30. I'm just myself. And I was like, because I didn't know how to approach him and say it, so I just was like came up to him. He was like reaching for something underneath the table. I was like, hey James, I just came to pick up my commission before I leave the con right now. And he, apparently this is what happened. He turned and he noticed something was gone. And apparently a guy had came up to the table, saw my commission on the table after he just drawn it, to his side behind him, kind of. Not where he was originally looking, more towards the lady's side where she was sharing the booth with him. And he had told the guy, because the guy wanted to buy it, you know, and he's like, no, somebody's already commissioned that. It's for somebody else. And so he turned his back around to where I guess he was signing for somebody else. And the guy just up and stole it. Somebody stole my commission. So now he's like pissed off about it. He's like, oh, you know, like, I can't believe it, you know, that guy took that, you know, and he took your commission. And even the lady there is like, yeah, you know, you told him blah blah blah, and I can't believe it. So he turns to me and he kind of like looks at me seriously. He's like, are you gonna be at the con tomorrow? And I would have driven to Phoenix and driven back to Phoenix for James O'Barr commission. I would have done it if I had to. But I told him honestly. I said no. I didn't say no. I said I'm sorry, unfortunately, but I live in Phoenix and I'm driving back to Phoenix tonight. And he was just like, you know, just frustrated by the whole situation. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. He's like, give me a half an hour, I'll redraw it, and you can come pick it up, okay? And I'm like, oh, James, I was like, just please take your time, like, yeah, I completely understand, blah blah blah. And so I left and I went and sat by a wall and just fucking dicked around on my phone for 30 minutes, and I came back. And he's talking to a fan, and the fan's like trying to get his PayPal into his phone. I guess he was paying him for whatever, an autograph or whatever. And he sees me standing off to the side, and he reaches under the table, and he goes and he starts to hand a paper towards me. And he's like, hey, you know how you paid for a headpiece? And I'm like, yeah. And I looked at it, and he's like, well, I figured given the situation, I ought to do a little bit more. And so he drew me, and I'll show a picture here. He drew me more than just a headpiece. And I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, wow, that was so nice of him. He didn't have to do it. He didn't even have to like finish it that day. He could have been like, sorry, come back tomorrow, like whatever. And I said, wow, like, thank you so much. This is so great. It's beautiful, you know. And finally, after all that time, like, I couldn't read him. He was just kind of being okay friendly, or just very like base level, like he wasn't showing a lot of emotion. He finally just smiled really hard, and he said, don't worry about it, I got you. And I said, James, I'm gonna send you an extra like $20 or something on your PayPal. And he's like, no. He's like, you don't have to do that, don't worry about it. And he's like, I did this for you. And I was like, no, I really want to. And he just kind of smiled, closed his eyes, and shrugged. And I said, look, and I reached out and I shook his hand again. I said, thank you, James. You are seriously one of the best, and I will cherish this art forever. And he said, don't worry about it. And I said, all right, have a good night. And I walked off, and I just couldn't take my eyes off the art. I'm walking through Comic-Con just staring at this. Because I have an original piece of art from the creator of The Crow in my hands. It's like, holy shit, mind blown. Comic book artist, mission accomplished. And as I'm walking away, the other fan is like, what was all that about? And I could hear him start to explain it to the fan. He's like, well, this guy, that's not how he sounds, but he's like, well, this guy, And and then the British guy caught me on the way out. He's like, oh, you got you a piece of art, brother, or whatever. He's like, bloody fucking brilliant. It's so beautiful. It's so fucking awesome, And I'm like, yeah, dude, I love it. It's the best. Like, I can't believe it. And so anyway, out of all those three people meeting at cons, James O'Barr, the creator of The Crow, one of the coolest, just most relaxed, chill dudes in the entire fucking world. And you know what? That one, I won that one. When it comes to meeting your heroes, that one turned out good. That one was the experience I'd been looking for so long. Going and meeting, my heroes. Like, that was the one that turned out better than I expected. And I got to hang out with them for a couple of minutes, and I got to hear them answer questions from people, like they asked him about like the new movie with Bill Skarsgård coming out, and he was talking about the 90s one, and just they don't make movies the same anymore. I don't think it's going to be as good, like that's what the fan said. And he's like, So James O'Barr, one of the best, a gentleman, a scholar, all the things. But those are my stories of meeting McFarlane versus Mermita Jr. versus James O'Barr. And again, I'm not throwing shade at either one of the other two. It's just, for whatever reason, those exchanges did not come out and manifest into the better experience that the James O'Barr one was. So my advice is, if you're going into a con and you have the same situation, don't freak out about it, right? Just learn to, live in that uncomfortableness, soak in that fucking atmosphere, and just be like, you know what, it doesn't matter. They're probably not even going to remember me by lunchtime, or dinner time, or dessert. Or the day after. And they've probably had far worse weird experiences with fans. So, yeah, I just want to give a shout out to James O'Barr, comic book creator that I respect so much and was so nice to me and did more for me than he had to do, and went out of his way even to fulfill my dreams of owning an original piece of art by his hands and his beautiful art. So thanks, James O'Barr, and thanks everyone for listening. I'll come back with more of these videos as usual. I'm trying to finish my comic book, and then I will get back to full-time creating content for the channel. Oh, there goes my phone. But right now I'm just working on my comic book, and while I'm drawing, I'm making these little podcast episodes or what the hell ever. I doubt a lot of people are going to listen to them, judging by the last one. So forgive me for not having more time in the day to do more for the channel. But until next time, thanks everyone for listening, and please support the channel. Peace out.